Welcome, everyone, to Agree or Disagree the podcast, the controversial podcast where we push you to think differently and connect you with your community. We meet on Wednesday nights and Thursday nights on Spreaker.com, Kvole, YouTube at Kevin Olenek. You can also Podbean at ARD the podcast. Find me on Facebook as a friend, Kevin Olenek. Like Agree or Disagree the podcast on Facebook. You can also follow me on Instagram and as well as Patreon at KEVOLE, and many more as we go through this. I'd like to talk to you today about going out for coffee. Imagine yourself as you are going through your day, heading out and inviting a friend for coffee. Maybe a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. Could possibly even be someone that you have met online and looking to get to know more. Or it could be a really interesting business opportunity. You decide to meet at the Starbucks down the street, and you either take the bus, you take transit, you drive, you walk, you bike, whatever. You head to the Starbucks that you agree to meet at, and the first thing you do is ask to use the washroom. Your response is, the response from the barista is, washroom is for customer use only. I imagine you would probably feel a little frustrated, but you sit down and you wait for your friend because you don't know if you're going to necessarily stay at Starbucks or you're going to head out on an adventure or what's going to happen. So you wait. Suddenly your friend comes and sits down and decide to catch up. How are you doing? What's going on? What's new? All of those things that you do in a conversation. When all of a sudden within this, there's more of a conversation. But all of a sudden, at some point during this conversation that you're having, you run into another important part of the conversation, or you run into a little bit of a problem, a little bit of a snag. Something happens that is very unusual, and you don't know what to make of it. And it's a little bit of surprising. The barista would perhaps come up to you and say, what are you doing? What is going on? And you're like, we're just sitting here having a conversation. When at some point, as you go on, this conversation leads to this.
No, they're not. Okay, well, for what? They're not trespassing. No, they're not.
Okay, well, we're not going to deal with you right now.
They're not trespassing. They're meeting in here. Okay. And if anybody else, they're allowed to be in here.
No, they're not.
Trespassing. You're actually accused of trespassing in a public place, meeting your friend. How would you feel if this was you? Would you feel like a valued customer? Would you feel like that you were an important person? Would you feel like you matter? Or would you feel like you were perhaps a little bit judged because all you really did is go and sit down and catch up on a Starbucks meeting with your friend? Something you and I and everyone else does every day. Some stay and maybe grab something to eat or grab a cup of coffee. Some just move on and go on with their day and go somewhere else. But it's certainly not considered trespassing in any way, shape, or form. That is what happened to two gentlemen in Philadelphia last Thursday. They went in, sat down, got caught up, when the manager of the Starbucks called the police and had them arrested for trespassing. Now, during this debate that has been going on for the last week, you've heard one side being, of course, very angry and hearing the hashtag boycott Starbucks, and there has been protests about how this has been treated. The other side is, well, we need some context about what is going on here. Okay, let's hear that. Let's hear what the context was, because maybe perhaps they've been there for far too long. Maybe they've been there for 2 hours doing nothing. Or maybe they weren't. What happened exactly?
You both walk in, you get a table. Rashawn, how long was it before you asked to use the restroom?
Immediately.
Wait a minute. Immediately. Not 20 minutes, not 2 hours. Walk in. Hi, can I use the washroom? No. Immediately. Let's hear what else.
As soon as I walked in, and she stated that they were for paying customers only, and I just left it at that moment.
And the response was, you have to buy something.
Yes.
Then you go and find Dante. You're at the table. What happened next?
We're at the table. We sit down. We're just talking amongst each other. She then comes from around the register, walks up to us, asks if, she can help us with anything. Can we start with some drinks or water or something like that? For when we have bottles of water with us, so, we're fine. We're just waiting for a meeting. We'll be out really quick type thing.
Okay, so these are not people that are going to be hanging out at Starbucks for the rest of the day. They're just there for a meeting, and they hang out, and they're going. I've done that. You've done that. We've all done that. As a matter of fact, I have to tell you that there's been times that I've sat at a Starbucks, a Tim Hortons, a McDonald's, and a number of other places, and have actually stayed there a lot longer, not ordering anything and not hearing from a barista, not once during that time. I've come in dressed probably as sharp as these two guys that I saw in the video. Wore a tie, but pretty equally dressed. I've had no problem. I've heard a number of people on social media say the same thing. I've had no problem. I can sit and I enjoyed there. How would you feel again if this was you? Would you not feel a little bit judged? Now, Starbucks, to their credit, and wisely, by the way, has decided to apologize, obviously, for this situation. The CEO has said that they're willing to work with the two gentlemen involved in this situation and come up with a better solution. Howard Schultz even said that this seemed like a basic situation of racial profiling. They've even had to go on social media and have discussions with a number of people that don't seem to think that this is racial profiling or anything that went wrong. Because, by the way, this doesn't happen to them because they can sit in any store at a Starbucks, McDonald's, Jack in the Box in America, Tim Hortons in Canada and the States, and nothing's wrong. But Starbucks has recognized that there is something wrong, and they need to fix it. And they're going to be taking a day to address and train their employees of handling these situations better. They're going to be closing the store to do that. And I think kudos to them. I've been in customer service for most of my career. I've done phone sales and door-to-door sales. I've been a student registrar at the SAIT. I've been on the phone and for a online pharmacy. I've worked at movie theaters. I worked at McDonald's. I've been in front of customer service. Sometimes I get it right, and sometimes, yes, I get it wrong. I got it wrong, and continue. I do think, in my experience in terms of customer service, that I wonder if maybe in customer service there's a focus on keeping people out rather than keeping people in. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of ways, especially when it's becoming ID or anything like that, that there's a lot of restrictions that we put in people's way to actually serve the customer, meet with the customer, meet with the guest, and treat the guest as a human being. As I said, interestingly enough, and a number of people have said, there's some of us that feel very privileged on that. And in terms of getting good customer treatment, and if they don't, they'll complain a little bit about it. But there's other people, and specifically when those that obvious racial profiling here happens, this isn't the first time, this won't be the last time that happens in some store, in some situation. There was even a situation in Calgary a couple of years ago where a black man was being followed by a security person in a Walmart. It does happen. It's going to continue to happen. I wonder if we, not only Starbucks, but a bunch of companies need to close their doors for a day and just examine how they're actually treating those that are not the same, or those that seem, I don't even like to using the word suspicious, because these people were not suspicious. But why do we have to treat people as if there's a doubt in their problem as opposed to welcome them into the store? That's the problem that I'm seeing in a lot of customer service. There's more ways to say no to someone than there is to say yes to someone. There's more ways to find a way to judge someone. I mean, I got to tell you, I've seen it here in Vancouver, where I've sat in places and I've ordered nothing, and I'm dressed, I have a tie on or whatever, and I've seen some people that are not dressed the same. They are struggling without home, struggling to get change or whatever, to get a coffee, a burger, or something. They end up sitting there and just having a rest. I mean, can you imagine living on the streets for a moment, having to walk everywhere and just not feeling welcome in a store? Not only that, but even in any case, just imagine that feeling and having someone come up to you and go, "You can't stay here. Get out. You just need a nap." I hope that what Starbucks is doing here, while this was a horrible situation, kudos to them for taking the steps to improve. And I hope this leads to more improvement in a number of different areas, where I do think that customer service, in terms of profiling, judgment, and discrimination, need to improve in a number of different areas. Because this happens not only in the States, this can happen in a number of different places, and we don't even realize it. So poor job to Starbucks, but kudos to Starbucks for making the change. What do you think? Let me know what you think. Again, find me on Facebook, Kevin Olenek. Like, agree or disagree the podcast on Facebook as well. Follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE, SoundCloud.com, KEVOLE, YouTube, Kevin Olenek, Patreon, KEVOLE, Instagram, KEVOLE, Podbean at A or D the podcast, and a number of other places. Thanks for listening. We will talk soon.